In an indictment unsealed this morning, federal prosecutors say since 2008, Combs abused, threatened, and coerced women and others around him.
Oh yeah, we back with another episode of The Twisted Tea, where we come to bring you the news with a twist.
To fulfill his sexual desires, protect his reputation, and conceal his conduct.
And today, we have Diddy. Oh yeah, I know, again. But this time, we're going to do something a little different with Diddy. You see, we're going to go ahead and dive into not all, but some of the famous people that have been brought up inside of his cases. And give you a timeline of the cases. That's right. We're going to give you a timeline of the cases and let you know who some of the famous people are that have been mentioned inside of these allegations with them. As some of these big name people have found a way to get out, but Diddy seems to be stuck. Anyways, as we all know, we seen the other day he got arrested. That's right. And they brought him up on, well, they keep telling us 3, but there's 4 charges in the indictment. All right. Why they keep saying 3? Well, they're trying to hide the other one, but that's different. Okay. So let's dive into who some of these celebrities are. You see,
revealing what they say they found: firearms, including 3 defaced AR-15s in his bedroom closet, and videos of elaborately produced sex performances with multiple victims, known as freak-offs, according to prosecutors.
Freak-offs sometimes lasted days at a time, involved multiple commercial sex workers, and often involved a variety of narcotics, such as ketamine, ecstasy, and GHB, which Combs distributed to the victims to keep them obedient and compliant.
Let's go ahead and give you a timeline of the cases and how we think they're going to be used against him and his upcoming court date. All right. You see, it all started off with Cassie. That's what everybody's heard. That's what everybody's heard of, to everybody knowing. Like, Cassie was the first one. But there was other cases before that. They were swept under the rug because he had other people doing a good job of keeping everything quiet. So we're going to start with Cassie's because it's one of the biggest ones, but not the first ones. Okay? Not the first ones. Diddy's been getting sued for a long time. Long time. All right?
Mr. Combs is a fighter. He's going to fight this to the end.
Now, November 16th, 2023, Cassie's lawsuit came to light. All right? When that lawsuit came to light, it brought up allegations of rape. It brought up allegations of trafficking. It brought up allegations of physical, mental abuse, savage beatings, drugs. She talked about how Diddy would go on these uncontrollable rages. Yeah. And basically force her to take the drugs to keep her inside of mental states, and having her sleep with other men so that he could watch and, basically touch himself while that would go on. I know, sounds messed up, but it's out there. People do it. Diddy did it. Who would have expected that? But anyway, we found out nobody sat there in their living room before that and was like, yeah, Diddy's watching people sit there and have sex with other people, in front of him, like his girl, and touching himself. Nobody thought that. And here we are. All right. Cassie said it was a thing. And we were probably sitting there thinking at the time, like, well, it's probably part of their relationship, right? No. Was not part of their relationship. According to Cassie, wasn't anything. She was forced to do these things, okay? And very shortly after that came to light, 2003, November, 17th, the very next day, Diddy paid that money. He was like, please keep it quiet, and paid the money, all right? And, we're not surprised that he did that because we know that he didn't want anything else to come up other than what has already been brought up in that one before, because, that's where the Kid Cudi bombing came up. We found out about Kid Cudi's car being bombed through that one. Through Cassie's lawsuit. We were like, what? Diddy bombed a car? And that's what they said. They said Diddy bombed the car. And we was like, this is nuts. Yeah, but that's what she said happened, all in that lawsuit. So the feds will probably go ahead and be like, peace, and start throwing these things together and bringing it up. Now, will they bring Kid Cudi to the stand? I doubt it, right? We're going to find out. Like I said, we didn't expect Diddy to be sitting there watching what he was watching with Cassie doing it with other guys and him having her do that and him hitting the button. We didn't expect that. So the feds might be like, Kid Cudi hit the stand. Again, I don't know. You don't know. We'll see what happens. Diving back into this though, like I said, he settled that quick because he didn't want anything else to get out from what was going on. And obviously later on, we saw the video that came out to be like, oh wow, this right here is nuts. You know what I mean? They got the video coming out now. What else is next, right? So on November 19th, okay, a couple more victims started popping up. Yeah, not shortly after the Cassie one. Other victims started popping up, and they also was getting in with the SA for the abuse, you know. And later on, that was filed in court, where prosecutors basically had attempts. That was being filed in court, and there were attempts to convince her that she was willingly doing that. They found out later on that he went out his way to have her contacted, basically to basically have her convinced that it was done willingly, so that way they could drop the claims that was coming up. You know, allegedly. So very shortly after that, not even like 5 days passed, because November 23, same year, 2023, 2 more women pop up with pretty much the same stories filed inside of New York. Now, New York at the time had just gotten, they have their like Adults Survivor Act. So it was expiring on the eve of that. So people were trying to put in their stuff before that expired. Now, I'm not saying it didn't happen. It could have happened. Again, these are all alleged things that were put out there. I'm just showing you how they're building the timeline of events that were going on with him throughout the years, that they're going to try to pin all of this together. That's it, right? But basically, at that time, Jodeci Dickerson had filed, her and another woman had filed that the alleged SA acts and beating and drugging took place in the early 90s by Combs. You know, and at that time, he was a talent party director and a promoter on the rise, basically, in New York. So, again, this was the early 90s. And if they basically have them stating these things from the early 90s, now again, whether or not they take the stand, I have no idea. But if they have them throwing these things out from the early 90s, that just means that they can utilize some of those wordplay into ongoing investigation, so that way it can keep up with other things that would be going on, right, from the 90s, so they could tie in even more time. Now, November 28th of 2023, Combs had stepped down at that point of revolt, right? All of these things popping up, and listen, I'm sure it wasn't by choice. I'm sure other people were over there, you know, and some of those people that he do business with at those big places, they were like, hey man, you know we were partying with you, and we hope these things don't come out, but we'd appreciate if you step down. And he did, right? Again, knocking down that money and the power structure that he had. I say had because right now they're trying to knock it down, and his power structure was pretty. We all know Diddy was one of the richest black figures inside of hip hop, right? Who learned from the likes of Russell Simmons. He learned from the likes of, you know, I got it on paper somewhere, man. Y'all know my paper be all over the place. Andre Harrell. He learned from like Clyde Davis, right? So with that being said, they also, you know, again, they had to teach him what some of the stuff he knows. Hey, they had to teach him some of the stuff he knows. And, you know, he might have just been the one that was basically making sure that the talent was going through these parties and doing the things they needed to do so that everything would be on tape, like the stuff we've been learning about from years ago. Because let's be honest, we heard about Cassie being one of those people that he would send off and have these type of things done for when Diddy wanted to close deals from Professor Griff like a long time ago. So this stuff coming up now isn't much of a surprise, really. So I know, a little off topic, but.
And they seize cases and cases of the kinds of personal lubricant and baby oil that Combs' staff allegedly used to stock hotel rooms for the freak-offs. More than 1,000 bottles altogether.
Diving back on topic, you know, I just wanted to give y'all that. But diving back on topic, like, after the 28th, when he stepped down, guess what? You know, December 6th, more stuff stepped in. Because more women came out. And at that time, one of the women said that in 2003, she was only 17 when Diddy and 2 other men had, you know, done some stuff to her in a lawsuit that was filed in Manhattan. And according to her in that lawsuit, she lived in Detroit. So she was flown from Detroit to Manhattan, right? Where she was given drugs and alcohol as an underage individual, where they AR'd her because she wasn't able to give consent for it, even if she was 17, okay, at the time. I'm just saying, right? In 2003, we know Diddy wasn't 18, 19, or 20. So in 2003, we know he wasn't 18, 19, or 20. All right? Okay, I'm just saying. So I want to say he was 30 then. But, hey, that's a mess. Now, with that is just one thing showing him flying people back and forth, okay? With the intent to do things like that. Maliciously, for sex travel. So that's boom, they're going to use that. They're like, all right, well, we could use, boom, look at this in this case from what was said. And this year, we can use that. February of 2024, well, another big lawsuit hits, okay? At that point, another big lawsuit hits in February of 2024. And in his lawsuit filed against his corporations, his companies, people that worked with him, people that worked for him, his assistant. That's right. So there were a lot of other names and big things that came out of this that was pretty much, well, swept under the rug and kept quiet for the most part. Okay? Reason why I say that is because if you dive into this one, right, like Stevie J was mentioned in this, and like a tape, apparently a sex tape came out with him and Stevie J. And the thing is, Ronald Jones basically said that they were trying to use him for like homosexual acts, and he wasn't for it. That came out of this lawsuit. Prince Harry's name, he was even thrown in this lawsuit. Young Miami, who was dating Diddy at the time, was also brought up in the lawsuit because, they said that she saw different things that were going on, and her cousin was helping Diddy pretty much try to groom Mr. Jones and have him partake in the different activities and giving him drugs. Bishop T.D. Jakes' name, was tossed in. Jones basically said that Combs, planned to leverage his relationship with T.D. Jakes to soften the blows with Cassie. But he also, when he was talking about his relationship, he was talking about his actual physical relationship and not friendship. Okay? Let's see. Yeah, these things, in the Mr. Jones's case, we also found out about, like I said, a lot of the inner workings of his companies. Empire is what they're calling it. But Farhim Mahad, okay, who was, according to court documents, the head of security at the time for Diddy, would have the power to making people disappear, according to Mr. Jones. Let's see. Jose Cruz was basically the gatekeeper to Diddy's recordings, according to Mr. Jones. So, a lot of different things and a lot of people popped out with that one coming up, and it makes a big difference, For instance,
Now, Combs did not do this all on his own. As I mentioned, Combs has been charged with Rico conspiracy. He used his business and employees of that business and other close associates to get his way. Those individuals allegedly included high-ranking supervisors in the business, personal assistants, security staff, and household staff.
Some of the bigger names at the labels being brought up, I'm looking for, give me a second, they're not popping them up, but some of the bigger names at the labels were being brought up. And as we just watched, think it's Kevin Lyles, just basically quit. He was like, "No, I'm done. Gotta go. Can't stay." He quit, right? Russell Simmons has been on the run for a while, and that hasn't been talked about much. Some of the people that he learned from, you know, Andre Harrell, well, you know, different things are going on behind these scenes, and a lot of the times where, in a lot of these different cases, these things have been brought up, and they're going to use a lot of that stuff to keep up with what was going on with Diddy. Lucien Grange's name was brought up, and for those who don't know, he runs Universal, top person over there. I mention it because, you know, Diddy and a lot of these big people's names are being brought up, and it's no coincidence that all of these people's names are being brought up. Diddy might just be taking the fall for this stuff, but like I said, there's no coincidence that the names are being brought up, as, you know, Diddy was clearly the person in the middle of it, but somebody had to be pulling the strings from behind it. You know, this is probably where they go, "Oh yeah, that person's going to be good. Take that tape and hold it over their head." And they go, "Thank you, Diddy. Here's another bag. You're always doing your job." And now it's all coming to bite them. But, you know, hey, now it's coming to bite them. Anyways, in that case, there's a lot of big things that went on throughout the time, and other things. There's a lot of other things that were going on. Honestly, we're going to get to this as a part 2 for the rest of his timeline, so that I can give you more of the celebrities' names that were being brought up. I'm just a little pressed for time. Got a couple things to go do. All right. So with that being said, thank you for tuning into an episode of The Twisted Tea, where we come to bring you the news with, well, a twist. Look forward to the part 2 on this, where we go ahead and we break down more of the timeline and more people whom, well, our names are being brought up and may be heading to court with Sean Puffy Combs.
Sean Combs led and participated in criminal activity, including sex trafficking, forced labor, kidnapping, arson, bribery, and the obstruction of justice.